Hi, which is supposed to be. This is WhiteRaven over here. Today is Monday, so happy Magic Monday to all of you guys. You probably are surprised that I'm coming from a different room. I was dying to do this. This is going to be a different room in which I'm going to be filming some videos. I'm going to be fixing this room so I can give you a different perspective, especially because today I'm not doing a hex and I am not going to be doing any spells. Today I'm going to be doing a short introduction. You could call it class if you want. I don't think it's a class, but it's just my take on binding spells. Many of you guys write to me on a daily basis to tell you what type of spell to do because you have a particular problem. And so today we're going to start by discussing what binding spells are, just in case I tell you, hey, maybe you should do a binding spells and I can't just direct you to this video. Needless to say, this is going to be my take and it's extremely basic definition of what binding spells are. I suggest for you to sit down comfortable, take your pencil and a notebook because maybe you want to take some notes. So if this is something that interests you, stick around because it's coming up right now. If you're new in this channel, my name is WhiteRaven and I welcome you, which I've been here in this world of YouTube for about 11 years now, and I want to share with you what I have learned myself throughout my path as a witch. When I started, it was very hard for me to find any type of information, and so I want to be for you what I wish I had when I started. If this is something that interests you, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment down below. Let me know that you're new because I would love to have you here in my channel. And I have a lot of spell videos, hexes, and a lot of teaching. So I suggest for you to go through my channel, see what I have. You may find a lot of things that you never thought you needed. So I invite you to stick around and check out the channel. So let's get into the video, which is what are binding spells? So binding spells are magic that we do that are intended to stop, to limit, to prevent, to slow down, to restrict. You get me? Influences of either people or situations that are coming your way. We usually do binding spells to prevent or stop harm coming towards us, like violence at home, negative behavior like abuse from another person. We do binding spells to contain energy that can be very disruptive and troublesome. Like, for example, jinxes, hexes, curses, spells, any type of spells, or situations like illnesses. A very positive way in which we can use binding spells is to bind someone from harming themselves. Like if you have kids and they're into substance abuse or any type of addictions, you can do a binding spell to bind that person from continuing having this type of addictions. Something else that perhaps you may or may not know is that you can do binding spells to bind negative things that you don't like within yourself, right? Like procrastination, like being lazy, like whatever it is, you can bind things from yourself with a binding spell. A very popular binding spell that I'm not going to address too much in this particular video are going to be love binding spells. Like when you bind yourself with a lover because you love this man so much or this woman so much that you want to bind that person towards you for eternity. We're not going to talk much about those spells, but you can also do binding spells to do things like that. On the same token, you can bind yourself to positive things if that is something that you would like to do. So what are the basic components of a binding spell? Well, some of them are going to be extremely mundane and some of the ones are going to be a little bit harder to acquire. But some of the common ingredients or elements are, of course, things that are going to assist you in binding or restricting someone. So you can use cords, thread, you can use ribbon, you can use wire, you can use tape. I love to use my hot glue gun and hot glue guns someone if I have to. You're going to need, and these are going to be harder because you need tag lugs. Many people ask me, WhiteRaven, what are tag lugs? Tag lugs are a representation of your target. And that includes nail clippings, that include hair, that includes soiled clothes, that includes something that is directly linked to your target. And those are harder to acquire, I understand, but you need tag looks of the person that you're working. You can also use a representation of your target, like a puppet or like a picture, a photograph of the person. That is something that you can use as well. In your binding spells, you can also add herbs. Like for example, I love to add creeper plants. If you have any type of creeper plants in your backyard, like for example, when I go walking with my husband every day, I've seen so many trees that have been completely engulfed by creepers. So if you happen to see things like that around in your backyard or around where you live, you can cut some of those plants and you can add it into your spell. You can use powders like alum. Alum would stiffen things, so you can use that as well. You can find alum in the supermarket where all the spices and condiments are. You can use different type of oils. You can use waters. Like for example, before I was doing this video today, I was eating some pickled asparagus. Pickled water will stiffen things up. That's why pickles, they're so crunchy in the bottom. That's why my asparagus are so super crunchy when they're even immersed in water. So you can use pickle juice to restrict someone. Not only that, some of the waters that you may use, you can freeze. And freezing is a way for you to bind and restrict someone. If you're artistic and you like the creation of sigils, you can also add sigils into your spells. These sigils, of course, should symbolize your intention. You can also use candles. You can use black candles for bindings, also red candles for bindings. You can use color correspondences if that is something that you think that you need to implement in your working. Above all, which is the most important thing when you are doing any type of spells, bindings, banishing, hexes, curses, blessings, or whatever it is your intentions. So you have to make sure that you get it out of you and that you put it into your spell. Because I know that you are going to ask me about this. What are the specific times in which you should be creating these binding spells? Well, which is my first answer is going to be that you do your spells when you feel like you're ready to do them. That's usually how I go about these things. But if I'm able to use any of the phases of the moon, then I will implement that into my spell. I can also add the days of the week and the planetary hours if that is something that you would like to also add on into your spells. So what are some types of binding spells? Most people believe that a binding spell is only done by wrapping something, and that's not necessarily so. There's many ways in which you can do a binding spell. Of course, number one is going to be your classic binding spell. You're going to be wrapping someone with cord or making a lot of knots into a puppet, for example. You can also do binding spells with mirrors, and that is binding your target, like a picture of your target, for example, against a mirror, and then you will bind that into a bundle, making that person being completely enclosed with their own evilness. So any evil that this person is throwing at you in turn is going to stay just rotating around there, around him, because it's reflecting back at him with this mirror. Something that I mentioned earlier in an extremely popular type of magic, freezer spells, freezer spells are intended to slow down and stop people in their tracks. So that is an excellent binding spell, and you can do right now in your home. I have some videos over here in this channel in which I talk about freezer spells. I will link them in the description of the video so you can get some additional ideas. Another binding spell that I find so easy and so effective is probably my favorite. Even my friends make fun of me because I'm always talking about this. Jar spells. You want to bind someone, you're going to put that person in a bottle, and you're going to lock that person inside that bottle, and you're going to bind that person in there. Okay, you're going to enclose and capture like a little jail right there, your bottle. Love jar bindings. They are simple and quick. And to me, they just enclose that energy and they seal it inside that container. Absolutely love jar binding spells. And with that, witches, remember that it doesn't necessarily has to be a jar. You can bind someone inside a box or inside a little coffin. I mean, the sky is the limit. You create wherever it is that you want to encase this evil door. Another thing that I find very useful and I have used sometimes is to weigh down someone. And so that means that instead of binding the person with a cord, you can have the picture of the person, write your intentions in that picture and put that picture under a very heavy rock. And you're going to keep it there. You're going to weigh it down. Another way that many people do it, believe it or not, they'll put your picture or a paper with the binding incantations. They just put it under a furniture leg. Like if you have a very heavy sofa, if you want to put somebody right under there, especially if it's somebody that lives with you and it sits in that side of the sofa, that will be a great way for you to bind a person. There you go. The sky is the limit, which is the idea is for you to stop someone in some way from doing harm to you. And let's remember that it's not necessarily a someone. It can also be a something. Another thing that I know that you guys are going to ask me, WhiteRaven, how do you throw away or dispose these binding spells? Well, the answer is going to be based on the type of binding spells that you're doing with. So there are some spells that you are going to need to keep around depending on what type of binding you are doing. Or you can also throw them away in running water. You can also bury them and you can also just simply trash them in the trash can when you think you are done. I think that evil stuff I will just throw away in running water or I will bury it away from me. Obviously, if you're doing a freezer binding spell, you're going to have close by. So the disposing of your spell is going to be directly linked to the spell that you're doing. So a lot of people is afraid of doing binding spells. So what other spells can you do instead of doing binding spells? Well, you can do protection spells. If you don't want to do binding spells because you feel some type of way, then you can do protection rituals. That is a good alternative. You can do banishing spells. You can banish negativity out of your life. You can banish evil people or bad friends out of your life. There are a lot of banishing spells in this channel, so I suggest for you to go around and check my playlist because there's a lot of those spells in here. You can also, witches, do reversal magic, which is one of my most favorite magic and is probably the spells that I share the most in here in this channel. Reversal magic. Go through the channel if you have some questions in regards to everything that I'm saying over here, because you'll find a lot of videos on banishing, on reversal magic, and on protection. So make sure, and cleansing and protection. So please make sure that you go through the channel. And so we're almost done with this little video that I really hope it was informative for you. But before I finish, let's make sure that we know about the ethics of binding spells, which is when we are doing binding spells, many times we're going to be manipulating the free will of other people. Like, for example, when you do love bindings. So when you're doing any type of bindings, remember the golden rule of witchcraft. Make sure that you're justified. Which is binding spells are done across the board. In Wicca, in Hoodoo, in folk magic, in ceremonial magic, in eclectic magic, modern magic, all type of magics are going to have some kind of binding spells. And they may be very different from the ones that I share over here or the one that you have learned. But the basic course of these spells is always the same. Magic is here to empower you, witch. Magic is here to assist you. So make sure that you use magic for the right reasons. Let me know if you have any further questions in the comments down below. It's really important that we communicate and that you let me know if there's things that you have any type of fog, and you want me to explain you a little bit further. Or if there's any other classes that you would like me to share in here with you. I mean, a short little simple video, right? That's what I'm here for, witches. And not only to do curses and hexes, but I need you to start learning. And I realize that I don't have a lot of classes in in my channel. So from the bottom of my heart, witches, I wish you the best. And that's it, witches. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I really hope that is beneficial for your magic. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you for all the support in the website, WhiteRaven and witcheslayer.com. Witches, I have a lot of products and awesome things that you can use for all your magical endeavors. And witches, I want to remind you that the website, WhiteRaven and witcheslayer.com, I share in there blogs and things like what I share in here today. I may convert that into a blog, so you can go to the website and use it as an additional resource. So please also remember to check the blogs. Last, witches, if you want to join the coven, just go and visit me in my Facebook page, WhiteRaven and Witches Lair. I am also sharing a lot of cool information as much as I can in my Facebook page. You can also reach out to me in there through Messenger, and you can ask me any questions. Remember that I do not work for people, and if you are going to write something to me, please make sure to be short. If you need a spell, please make sure to check out the channel before you ask me, because chances are that you're going to find a video on any spell that you wish for in this channel. Other than that, which is, I love my Magic Mondays. I love being here with you. Remember to stay very smart, because knowledge is power. Study, research, and come out with your own conclusion. But with all that knowledge, witches, and with all that power that you acquire, remember that you have to discern and you have to stay so very wicked. Bye. See you Monday.